Hi there, and welcome to the Alder Hour, your new favourite way to end your working day. It's midday on the West Coast, it's 3 p.m. on the East Coast, it's 8 p.m. here in the UK, and it's 9 p.m. in most of the rest of Europe. I'm not very good with time zones. If you watched that before, you probably already know that. So anyway, I'm Matt Alder. I host the Recruiting Future podcast. And now it is my absolute delight to also be the host of the Alder Hour. This show is part of the Purple Acorn Network. You can head over to purpleacornnetwork.com after the show if you want to learn more about the other great shows that Purple Acorn provide. You can follow Purple Acorn on LinkedIn. And also, this episode is going to be available as a podcast afterwards. So you can listen to that on Spotify or indeed wherever you get your podcasts. Now, I know that lots of people watch this live, and I know lots of people also watch the recorded version. If you are watching live, give us a shout, give us a comment. We'll try and we want to know your opinion about some of the stuff that we're talking about, and we've got a really great show lined up today. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome my two amazing co-hosts for this episode 5 of the Alder Hour. And here they are. Hi, Rona. Hi, Jocelyn. How you doing? Jocelyn, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've missed a couple of them.
I know. Well, it's
Excited to be
fantastic.
back.
It's fantastic to have you back. What have you got for us? What have you got for us this week?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about confidentiality in the workplace. In particular, there's a scenario about a woman who is pregnant. She didn't want anybody to know she was pregnant, and HR kind of announced to a coworker that she was in fact pregnant. So obviously, I think most people know that wasn't the right thing to do. But what we're really going to talk about is, how HR really should be handling situations like that to begin with.
No, absolutely. And Rona, hi there. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing good. How are you today?
I'm all right, actually. I've had a haircut, as everyone noticed. I was hoping to. Oh, it's a ball bit at the top. I was hoping to cover up with a pair of headphones, but my headphones have broken, so I'm looking very not like a podcaster today, which is not my usual look. But anyway, what do you have for us? What do you have for us coming up this week?
So, we're talking about hustle culture, if it's really dead, and if the opposite of hustle culture is actually laziness and lack of productivity, because some people say it is. So, that's what we're going to be talking about
That
today.
sounds like it could be a contentious issue. Fantastic. Well, without further ado, at that point, let's move on to points and pints. So, welcome to Points and Pints. Now, the point of Points and Pints is that it's very much the end of my work day. So, I am going to open a beer, which is a pint. It's not a pint, really. It's kind of half a pint, maybe. I'm going to open a beer, and we're going to talk about this particular issue. Now, this beer, this is Brewdog, which is a Scottish company. So I'm based in Scotland. So it's dear to my heart. They're based up in the north of Scotland. Punk is their signature beer. It's the beer that made them famous. They have got a brewery in the US as well. And this is the alcohol-free version. And this is the very first alcohol-free beer I ever had, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to open it here. There we are. I'm just going to pour this in midair to get this in my camera without getting it on my keyboard. See if I can manage it. There we go. You can almost hear the sound effects. I don't know. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. There we go. Fabulous. Highly recommended. Punk AF. It's Punk AF. Alcohol free, obviously. Family show. Right. Okay. So the first point. The only point in Point and Pints today. This article, there's more to skills-based hiring than just removing degree requirements. Now, skills-based hiring has been such a big topic, really for a few years, but certainly in the last sort of 2 years, 18 months. It's kind of up there with AI. People talk about AI, and then they talk about skills-based hiring, I suppose, the next most. And I think what this article is saying, that there's a perception that skills-based hiring is just about removing the degree requirements for a particular job, which has been a really interesting trend to watch. And really, I think a lot of employers have realised that using a degree as a filter in their application process isn't the greatest thing in terms of getting the talent that they need. And do you really need a degree, to do that particular job, or would relevant experience help, or actually, training, all those kind of things. So it's certainly an important move, and it's been really interesting to see employers do that. However, skills-based hiring is a much bigger topic than that, and it's really driven by the fact that work is changing so quickly. The skills that people have and the experiences they have go out of date very, very quickly. So you might be hiring someone to do a particular thing. They might have a particular sort of set of skills, but actually, within a few months, they're doing something different for you because the world has moved on and the world has changed. So part of this has been a big focus on soft skills, learning agility, communication, flexibility, all those kind of things, with the whole idea that we are, having to retrain, reskill, upskill people as part of that process. About this time last year, I was part of a research project into skills-based hiring, and we spoke to 20 global employers, all of whom had kind of been on stage at events talking about skills-based hiring. When you kind of pull back the curtain, while everyone agrees that it's absolutely where things are going and the right thing to do, organizations are really struggling with this. They're really struggling to transform from, a very kind of experienced, hard skills based way of recruiting and way of operating into something that's kind of more flexible, and really, really works from that kind of skills base. And lots of sticking points, but one of them is really them not being able to understand the skills they have in their business and how do they categorize those, and what kind of happens. So that's kind of where we are. That's kind of why it's difficult. I think the advantages of doing this are just phenomenal, not just for the companies involved, but also for things like mobility, internal mobility, but also career mobility. I'm a really strong believer that talent acquisition companies hiring, tend to discriminate against people who aren't from what they concede to be the right industry, or the right company, or the right background. And these people could be absolutely perfect for this role. And I think that skills takes that kind of stigma away. It creates more fluidity in the workforce, and it opens up opportunity for people and allows people to kind of move career and really, do the job that they want. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's also difficult and problematic, and I think we should just have a much more honest conversation about where companies are with this. What does everyone think? Jocelyn, what do you think? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The kind of hard skills are changing very frequently for a lot of jobs. And so evaluating those soft skills is really important, particularly when it comes to whether or not they're adaptable, whether or not they're able to learn quickly, et cetera. Are they trainable? Are they coachable? All that. I have found, though, that I'm still a little on the fence about whether removing degree requirements is necessarily the right way to go, because I do think that degrees can provide a lot of soft skills that would otherwise be really hard to hone and develop over time. So I wouldn't discount that.
No, I think that's an interesting point, and I think that there's a bigger discussion, I suppose, around this in terms of, and I've got someone coming on my podcast in a couple of weeks to talk about this very topic, whether education systems, be that universities and colleges or schools, are actually allowing people to develop those kind of soft skills in the right kind of way. It's almost like there's almost like another kind of issue, kind of around that. Rona, what do you think?
I mean, I think I have a slightly different take. For me, even though I have a degree. I've never thought that a degree was a sign or like evidence of capability. And in speaking to hiring managers, that's really the big like thing that's makes them hesitate to adopt things like skills-based hiring because they're just so used to thinking this degree means that this person is capable of doing this, and it's really not. I think the conversation that we need to be having is about how do we truly assess capability and where do we get this evidence of people's capabilities? Because is it doing these incredible tests that everyone does, or like how do we shift that mindset that we've had for decades? That this degree means that this person's capable to this, to like, how do we determine that?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I've got a drama degree, and I spent most of my working life trying to persuade people that it was actually it's actually a great degree to have because people think about things like presentation skills, but actually, what you learn on a drama degree are things like working as a group, working very quickly under pressure with people that you don't know, getting people to trust you very quickly. There's some kind of fantastic skills like that, and I'm not sure that we actually break down the skills in degrees in that way, because I think people still have very set ways of thinking about thinking about certain degrees. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, and it's as I say, I just wish that people were a bit more honest about their lack of progress with it. And then we could have some kind of proper conversations about how to move forward and really kind of embrace its benefits, because I also think that I really think that AI might hold the key here as well. What is thoughts on AI in terms of spotting skills, measuring skills, all those kind of things? What do you think?
I mean, definitely there are ways that we could leverage it for it. I haven't dove into it enough to know, so I won't make like yes it can work or no it can't work, but I do see the potential.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's all about potential, and it's it's interesting times, and we can be sure that one thing, that the pace of change is not going to slow down anytime soon. So with that situation, let's move on to the situation room, and I'm going to have another bit. Jocelyn, talk us through it.
Okay, so this is an employee. She's 6 months pregnant. She's had kind of some really difficult experiences with pregnancy in the past, and she's a very private person, so she didn't really want anybody to know that she was pregnant. So even at 6 months, she was wearing clothes that made it look perhaps like she'd gained weight rather than being pregnant. She did tell her boss, and her boss disclosed her pregnancy to HR without her permission. But then HR came to her office and told one of her new coworkers that she was pregnant after she'd specifically asked that they not do that, and had even given reasons for why she shouldn't do that. So there are a couple of things to unpack here. First is, yes, it's really hard that she didn't want the boss to disclose this to HR, but it is really important for HR to know when something like this is happening because she's going on leave. There are administrative requirements that HR has to fulfill, and they also have to plan for what happens while she's out, whether it's finding temporary replacement or working with a couple folks on the team for coverage. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I don't necessarily think that was the wrong thing to do. I think what the HR practitioner did in this story, anyway, was incorrect, right? This is confidential information. You should only be sharing this type of information when it is an absolute need to know. And there has to be validity behind the reason why you were sharing this type of private details. So, when this is happening, HR really shouldn't be telling, these coworkers, oh, she's pregnant. They shouldn't be really talking about it at all. It's something that they should only be talking about with her and with her boss, and that's it.
Absolutely, and I suppose there's two things for me. It's almost like what level of confidentiality can people expect from HR? Obviously this is the kind of the wrong thing to do, but are there things that HR shouldn't keep confidential, that someone wants kept confidential?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, so I think when they're, and this goes back though to only people who need to know. When there's illegal activity that's occurred that HR needs to be aware of, and we've talked about this in other podcasts. I think there was a
Yeah.
sexual harassment one at one point. Um, that's when HR needs to let people who absolutely need to know what's going on. So it's kind of hard because you can have an employee come to you as an HR professional and confide in you that they're being sexually harassed, or they're being retaliated against or discriminated against, but they don't want anyone to know. They don't want further retaliation. They don't want to be ostracized, and that's a really hard situation for HR to be in. So I would always tell an HR professional to preface these conversations by saying, look, I will keep what you're saying confidential to the maximum extent possible, but you have to know that if you share any illegal activity with me, I have to move forward with something like this.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I suppose the second point around, I suppose this around something like this is, the employer wants to keep their pregnancy confidential, and HR should be keeping that confidential apart from that kind of need to know basis. Where's the point where they kind of, that need to know kind of gets much broader, like that person's team or something like, something like that? Are they just going to disappear one day? What's the, where's the kind of scale with it?
Yeah. So I think, once this person is taking leave, it's appropriate to say, hey, this person is taking leave for private reasons. Here's our contingency plan. We expect this person to return in, 3 months, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's absolutely no reason why HR should ever tell somebody that she's pregnant.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of again, these are all really interesting. They're all kind of really interesting scenarios, aren't they? And they're all things where people have stepped over the line, but there's this kind of underlying thing about confidentiality within HR. I suppose from a maybe not quite. Maybe not entirely sort of based on this scenario, but I suppose the other thing that strikes me is that HR people are humans too. They're part of an organization. Do you think the pressure to keep things confidential it is kind of stressful for people in HR, particularly if they're kind of socializing with the rest of the company, or all those kind of things, or is it just very much kind of part of the job?
Yeah, I think it's less about the stress of keeping something confidential and more the stress of taking on other people's burdens.
Yeah.
As an HR professional, most I would say are very empathetic or at the very least sympathetic. And I can speak from personal experience that when you do have employees coming to you with problems, it is really hard to not take that on your shoulders because you want to help them. And I'd say that that's where it gets more stressful than anything else. Personally, I never felt stressed that I had to keep secrets. That was something that I took very seriously as part of my job. And I think most HR professionals would. So that just kind of comes with the territory. It's more the emotional toll of the secrets that you were keeping in the first place.
And is there kind of support for HR professionals with that kind of issue?
Absolutely. There are tons of really great HR groups or communities that you can join. Troop HR is one of them. HR Connected is another. There are plenty of them, and they have great forums where you can, anonymously. I would suggest anonymously doing this, but you can also do it unanonymously, I suppose. But anonymously, kind of post, "Hey, this is a scenario that I've gone through," and other HR professionals will reach out to you for support and provide advice. And I think that that's a really great way of getting some of that off your chest.
Fantastic. Just because this is the first time we've spoken this year, we didn't sort of talk to you about your predictions or anything like that. What do you think the biggest issues for HR are going to be in 2025? Well, you have to list all of them. Just pick one or two that you think we're going to be talking about a lot.
Yeah, so I know I'm very biased because I have a compliance tech company, but I think compliance is going to continue to be a really big topic of conversation, whether that's compliance around payroll and taxes and wage theft and misclassification, or what we're seeing a lot of now is leave and minimum wage compliance requirements that you have to meet. It is very stressful when you have to follow not just federal law, but state and local law as well. And keeping up with all of these changes is really difficult to do,
Mm.
especially because these states and localities are taking it upon themselves to pass laws that then supersede federal law. So I think we're going to see more and more of that as the time comes. I think we're going to see more pay transparency popping up as well, from a legislative perspective, but from a culture perspective too. So those are two big ones that I think people should be on the lookout for.
Absolutely. Jocelyn, thank you very much as ever. And let's move on to our first guest.
Fantastic.
Hey, Dart, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good. We did a podcast together. When was that? Was that about a year
Two
ago?
podcasts.
Two
Two podcasts. You came on my podcast.
I
and
did.
came on
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Was that a year ago or how long ago was that?
It's about a year ago. Yeah.
It was about a year ago. Yeah, absolutely. And a fascinating topic and one that I know we're going to sort of pick up on right now. Before we start, just please introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
I'm Dart Lindsley. I am the CEO and founder of 11-Fold, which is a work experience design firm. And I'm also the host of a podcast called Work for Humans.
Fantastic. Work experience design. Just tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about what that is.
So I am I'm trying to change the conversation pretty fundamentally in the talent world, which is rebalancing it to look at work as a product. And so, in fact, the best way to read about this recently is that I'm very proud to say that Eric Anisich and I had an article come out in the November issue of the Harvard Business Review called Reimagining Work as a Product.
Congratulations. I saw that. Yeah, fantastic.
In
Yeah.
the paper magazine, which I'm so excited about, and it's caused a lot of buzz. But the change of the conversation. In fact, earlier in this show, we were talking about skills, and skills is all about what are your attributes that are going to make you useful to me. And so the conversation that we're trying to change is to at least rebalance it so that 50% of the conversation is what are the attributes of the work that are
Yeah.
going to actually be valuable to you.
Absolutely. And we still think about work in a very kind of old-fashioned industrial way, don't we? It hasn't really altered in hundreds of years.
That's absolutely true. We think about work. Well, we think about people in a very old-fashioned and industrial way, which was we think about people as inputs to production that need to be optimized, like capital equipment or raw materials, and that has limited our toolbox to the sorts of things that you would use in acquiring things.
Mm.
So you can buy these things better, or you can buy less of them. And a lot of what we anchor on is those tools.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the kind of it's a very strange way about thinking about humans, isn't it? Really, and you're, as you say, you kind of really sort of turning that on its head, and it's kind of a fascinating, it's kind of a fascinating sort of model that you've got. So, work as a product. Talk us through it a little bit more.
Well, so let me say where this comes from. It comes from the idea that employees are customers. So not metaphorically. It's not a metaphor. Not like customers. They're not customers for our product. They're customers for work itself. And this comes from the idea and the belief, and I think the truth, that employees, just like any customer, provide business critical value to your company and are free not to at any time. That's what makes a customer, is that they have something for your company and they don't have to give it to you. And it's also true that people are much more complex than just what they want from pay and what they want from benefits and vacation and all those different things. And so once you realize that employees are customers, you have to ask, what are they buying? And what they're buying is work itself. And although we focused a lot on employee experience in the past, a lot of what we've focused on is the box that work comes in, not the work itself. So we'll do things like snacks or gyms or yoga or these things that are not actually the work. And we don't focus enough on those. And so the the whole push here is to say, look, let's pull out the fabulous design tools from product design and let's start applying those to work, and let's see how great we can make it.
Absolutely. Give us talk us a bit more about that. What kind of tools? How does that? How do you kind of shape work as a product?
Well, the most common tool that I've used is jobs to be done theory. And so it's using jobs to be done, which is to ask the question, if I'm designing a product for you, I'm going to ask you, what job do you want to get done with that particular product? And so I've asked hundreds and hundreds of people, what job do you hire your job to do for you? And you get a range of answers that is quite large and quite diverse, to the point where almost nobody wants exactly the same thing from their job, which is a very hard product challenge.
No, absolutely, and it kind of really resonated with me actually, because I've always when I had a proper job before I do what I do now with podcasting and things like that. I was always kind of reevaluating, every year. Do I stay at this company? Is this giving me what I want, or do I look kind of elsewhere? So I kind of really get that, but it kind of turns HR and talent acquisition into something more akin to marketing, doesn't it? In terms of actually keeping people engaged and making them want to work there.
Marketing. So, and by marketing, I want to be really specific about what I mean by marketing. Sales, which you can argue recruitment is about getting rid of stuff you have. That's what sales does. You've got inventory, you're selling it. Marketing makes sure that sales has something that they can get rid of. And so that's what marketing is. It's not just talk. It's actually producing a product that when salespeople go out to sell it, they can say, honestly, this is the best possible thing to get the job done that you want to get done. And so design. And the real challenge here, and this is why it's a particular kind of design, I believe increasingly that this is what's called service design. So the challenge is that with so much diversity in what people want from work, most of the things that people want from work beyond pay and vacation and benefits is unique to the person. And so it can't be served like some central service offering from the middle of the company. It actually, the only people who are close enough to the employee to know what they individually want from work so that we can start crafting that experience is managers. And so it's about pushing a lot of the work and a lot of the design activity to managers and their team members to co-create. And so it's a whole new skill set, and it's a whole new definition of management.
No, absolutely. And so you've kind of been putting this out there for a while now, getting a lot of great feedback and traction, and as you say, Harvard Business Review, all those kind of things. Are you seeing employers doing this? Either they were doing it anyway, or people are kind of responding to this kind of way of thinking?
Some are. And so it's very hard for HR departments to actually expand their scope in many cases to include not just designing the experience of HR services, but designing the experience of work itself. Because what it means is that you're reaching out to where work is, no matter where it is. And so an example of this is, and I have a show on it, I can't say which retailer it is until I get permission, but a very large retailer actually went out and ran a study of the retail worker experience. And it was an absolutely classic design exercise, which is they sent design researchers into the retail experience. They would go out, meet them at 6 a.m. when they were getting their breakfast ready, and they would follow them as they walked the dog, and they would drive with them to work and experience their commute. And then they'd go through the complete day with them, and then they'd go home and pick up the kids, and they would all the way to see not just how's this product while you're experiencing, but how does it fit into your entire life?
Yeah.
So that they can design it better. And so, yeah, and I will say that happened to be a B corporation. I think B corporations are better at allocating resources to that kind of design activity, but it's happening.
Absolutely. I suppose coming back to that skills thing as well, it a big part of this is understanding, because it's almost like understanding, I suppose flipping on its head, it's like who are we marketing this to? Who is our target audience? Who has the currency, if you like, to do this, isn't it? So that's a big part of it.
Currency is exactly the right word. So if I'm an employee and I'm thinking about what kind of work I want to buy, then I might ask myself, well, what currency do I need to have in my pocket so that I could buy it? But let's think for a second, sort of data model-y, and you think about work as it exists in relation to skills. What a lot of people want to do is they want to attach a lot of skills terms to the work, to the job, for instance, and say this job requires these skills. What we don't attach to that object today is what value is that job, that particular work, going to provide to the person who buys it. When you go to shop on Amazon doesn't just show you like what currencies they take for that particular product. They give you the product specifications. They give you recommendations. They tell you what it's going to be like. Maybe they even give you a video of what it's going to be like when you open the box on that particular product. And that's not how we sell jobs. The way we sell jobs is, here's the skills. Do you got them or not? And so it's a very different set of a very different way about talking about the work itself. And for instance, is this the kind of work that's going to give me interesting puzzles to solve? Or is this the kind of work that's going to give me a stage and an audience? I suspect you hire your job a little bit for that.
What do you say?
You come from theater. You come from theater, right? And a lot of the people who answer the question, I hire the job to give me my stage and audience, come from the stage, either as musicians or something like that. Is it going to get me out of the house? Is it going to structure my life? Is it going to support my family? Is it going to help me build my legacy? Am I going to get to build stuff? Those are the sorts of things that people want from work.
No, fantastic. So, just as a kind of final question, sort of, 2025, what do you think? How much progress are we going to make towards this? What are the kind of the issues going to be? How do you sort of see the year panning out?
That's an interesting one, because this is a campaign, and there is a small movement. I can think of 20 really active leaders who are pursuing this kind of model. And so I think it's going to take multiple years. You asked the question earlier of what's going to be the big thing this year in HR? And my answer is, it's never what you think. We all set out on the year and we think it's going to be this thing, and we're starting to work on it, and then it's never what you think.
No, absolutely. And then come December, everyone's back making confident predictions again. It's a human trait. It's a human trait.
Something's going to happen. We don't know what it is yet. Let's sit back and just take a little bit of a rest, because
I hope whatever it is positive. That's all I can say. Dart, thank you very much for talking to me. Fascinating talking with you as ever, and good luck with the campaign. And let's move on to the next guests. Oh, here we go. That's me. Where are the guests? Don't worry, someone will let you in a second. Otherwise, I'm going to have to talk to your disembodied voices, like we're doing a podcast or something. Let's just give it a second to see what we can do. It's been a day of technical problems for me today. My headphones broke. So that was one thing. Someone cut off the internet in the building for most of the day. That was another thing. So it just comes in threes. So whatever's going on is there we go. No, that's not the hi Rona. Oh, there we are.
Here we are. Yay!
Live TV, what can you do? It's fantastic. So, hi Peter, hi Krista. Great to see both of you again. Again, you've both been on the podcast before. We've spoken before. introduce yourselves and tell us what you do. Krista, you can go first.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you again. It's been a while. My name is Krista Tan. I'm one of the co-founders of Talent Collective. We are a community for women in the talent acquisition space. We were founded about a year and a half ago and growing steadily. We have, I think, over 550 global members now. And we come together for professional development, connection, and empowering our community of women.
Fantastic stuff. And Peter, introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
Hi, Matt. Thanks very much for having me. I am the founder and CEO of TA Tech, the Association for Talent Acquisition Solutions. We're the trade organization for the global job board and talent technology industry. We're celebrating our 18th birthday this year. And our mission is to help employers and job seekers take advantage of the growing capability of talent technology globally.
Fantastic stuff. So two organisations, very different ages, but both doing, both doing fantastic stuff. Now, you've come together on a particular initiative, haven't you? Who wants to sort of tell us a little bit about? We can both tell us about that, but who wants to go first? What is it that you're collaborating on, and why are you doing it?
Go ahead, Tana. Excuse me. Go ahead, Kristen. Go ahead and go first.
Sure. So we've been fortunate to partner with Peter and TA Tech this year for a certification program. So any talent acquisition or even HR professionals that are interested in learning more about the technology landscape and how to bring these technologies into your companies and just know and become an expert and more about what the landscape is. This is the place for you. We have one session every month this year. And then at the end of the year, there will be a certification that you'll go through to get that. And it's a really great way to stay, up with the trends and on innovation and what's happening with technology. And to become give more to your employer and become a better employee, but also to become more marketable for future employers. You can put this on your resume, your LinkedIn, things of that nature. Pass it to Peter. I'm sure he can articulate a little more too as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's no question that talent technology is incredibly important to recruiting today. And that ranges from the selection and use of job boards to the use, as you were saying earlier, of artificial intelligence in a whole range of tasks related to recruiting. So I would argue that it's now a core competency of recruiters to know how to do three things. One, acquire technology. Two, implement it into the culture, tech stack, and user base of an organization. And then three, to use it effectively. So we're very fortunate to partner with our friends at the Talent Collective to try to actually put together a program of foundational skills to do those three things. We're drawing on the subject matter experts in the TA Tech community to deliver these programs. And we want to not only tell them about what the capabilities are, but also to demonstrate actual tools and technology that can accomplish those activities. And then, as Krista said, taking the certification exam is optional. But if you take the exam, you can get a credential that certifies that you are a talent technology strategist, which is not only career enhancing, but as Krista indicated, might even be employment securing in today's world of work.
No, absolutely. I think that it kind of really makes perfect sense. And I suppose, Krista, interested in your thoughts on this, but it's kind of always struck me that we don't live in a particularly safe space for people to admit they don't really understand what's going on with technology. And I think that lots of people are perhaps in the position where they don't know as much as they feel they should. Is that would that be a correct assumption?
Absolutely. And who has time to go and demo a bunch of products in their roles, right? So that's actually something that at Talent Collective we talk about a lot. We have mastermind groups that meet monthly in different niches, and every single meeting, technology is coming up, and people are asking, what are you using? What's working well? What's not working well? How was the implementation of that? What size company should use that type of technology? So there's a lot of questions out there. Nobody feels like they have all of the answers, or even sometimes any answers.
Yeah.
So I think it is, like you said, kind of a vulnerable position. You feel like you have to know, and most people don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And Peter, it's such a big topic, as you said. How have you how have you sort of both chosen what to focus on, and what the kind of important bits are? Because so many technologies out there changing so quickly. What's the kind of the fundamentals of being a strategist, as it were?
Well, the hard part is that it changes almost every year. So we put together a curriculum that we think is current for this year and maybe even for next, but clearly the core technologies and the core learning will change on an ongoing basis. And that's both a challenge and an opportunity. It's a very exciting, dynamic field where you can continually learn something and enhance your value to the organization. We capitalized on a survey that Krista did with her membership, in part to learn what are the kinds of challenges, issues, topics that they feel are important to their success. And then we surveyed our own membership to ask them what kind of questions were they getting from the recruiters that they deal with on an ongoing basis. And we put together a curriculum. It's not going to make anybody an algorithm developer or a robot trainer or anything like that. But as I said at the outset, to provide a foundational understanding about what the technology is. Our first session, which was done by Sarah White, the founder and CEO of Aspect 43, was on the talent technology ecosystem itself. And then for the next 11 months, we'll parse that topic from a number of different directions in order to give folks at least a basic understanding of what is the state of the art today, how can they bring it into their organization, and how can they leverage that technology to their advantage in the war for talent.
No, absolutely. And Krista, what are the kind of the big topics for you in this? What do you think kind of really resonates with the people who are doing it?
Yeah, so streamlining process is always a really big one. That'll be our next topic in February. Employer value proposition, sourcing, job boards, AI. Obviously, we talk about that. I feel like it's a constant thing coming out of my mouth these days. And then what are some other things like ATSs? Data analytics. Yeah. So, things that we talk about often, but I think the cadence and the pace of which we'll be talking about them and the flow of it really makes a whole lot of sense.
So, final question, well, to both of you, really. How can people sign up? Is it something people can join, or is it they have to wait till next year? What are the logistics around it? How can people find out more?
Well, yeah, it's free and open to everyone. That's an important point to make. So you can access the registration link at tatech.org, which is our website, and also at the Talent Collective Co. talentcollectiveco.com website, and just sign up. Now, lots of people sign up for things online, and not everybody shows up. So just to be clear, if you want to sit for the certification exam, the questions for the exam to get that credential come from the presentations. So we know that people are busy. So not only are we doing them live, but we're also recording them and archiving them in our learning management system so that if someone can actually see them, they can go back and look at the recordings.
Awesome. Krista, Peter, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Matt.
Pleasure. Let's move on to trending or ending. Hi, Rona. Welcome back. Hustle culture. Tell us about it.
So, I mean, if you go on TikTok or read any headlines, you'll notice that people are saying hustle culture is dead. Really, Gen Z, as many of the things that we're seeing, has really been the person behind the death of hustle culture. At least that's what we're seeing out there, right? We used to glorify the like rise and grind, and you saw all of this prior to 2019. I make seven figures now. I'm the most successful startup founder because I wake up at 4 a.m., do a cold plunge, and work until the next day at 3 a.m., like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic and even before, I would say like 2019, we really started seeing the cracks in that narrative, right? Like the results, like everyone was saying, this is how you really make it, but the results aren't really there. And as Gen Z started joining the workforce, they started seeing layoffs, like employers, there's no loyalty. So it doesn't matter how hard you work, you get laid off. Um, Student loans that you can never pay. It doesn't matter how hard you work, you'd never make enough money, especially here in the US, to pay those off. And then things like the cost of housing, it's really unattainable. So I think that really like led to Gen Z saying like, wait a minute. And then the mental health and the burnout repercussions of working that much. It's like, is it really worth it to work this much? And I think that's really the narrative. Lots of people are trying to paint it as, and like we saw in the picture of the article that was on the screen a few minutes ago, it's this girl like being lazy. Everyone takes it as if the opposite of hustle culture is laziness and lack of productivity, and I don't think it really is. To me, it's Gen Z redefining, and also millennials, because I'm a millennial and an elder millennial at that. And I agree with this. I do, and I have jumped on this. Um, the opposite of hustle culture isn't laziness. It isn't the quiet quitting and the bare minimum Monday and the hush trips. That doesn't mean you're lazy. That just means you're redefining your relationship with work and shifting from doing the most to doing and working on what really matters. So, in my opinion, this is a trend that we will continue to see go. I want it to, but also just realistically, I know that's where we're at. What do you think, Matt? Is it trending or ending?
Well, as an aging Gen Xer, I'd like to reach out to millennials and Gen Z everywhere and just say thank you, because it's ridiculous. I've got so much to say about this. First of all, I think the kind of that kind of epitome of hustle culture. I get up at 4 a.m. I do all this kind of stuff. A lot of it is kind of aspirational towards a small group of successful people who say that's why they're successful. But a lot of the time, that's not why they're successful. It was luck, or they inherited money, or all this kind of stuff. So I think that it reminds me there was a trend for a while because Steve Jobs studied calligraphy at university. Everyone was suddenly studying calligraphy because that would make them like Steve Jobs. And it's like, this guy's a one-off. It's just so I think that it's kind of pointless from that perspective, but also it's the health aspect of this. It's not the human brain working in its optimal state. You need sleep, you need nutrition, you need socialization, and it's like you're never going to be at peak performance if you don't have those things in your in your routine. And that's not necessarily about getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, having a cold plunge and doing all those things before you start work. It's just about that balance. So I think that's kind of really, that's sort of really important as well. And I mean, there are some hustle bros out there that haven't got this memo, because I saw there was a big online debate last week. I think I can't remember the name of the guy, Alex someone or other, who's written some really quite good books, but he was putting his success down to the fact that he didn't go to any of his friends' weddings for 5 years. And it's just like, Dude, come on. Why would you? If that's your choice, that's fine, but that's not something that you want everyone to do. And then my final point. I know I'm making loads of points here. You can come back on all of them. My final point is actually, is AI killing hustle culture? Because the whole idea of hustling is you're doing a huge amount of work, but actually, are we not now in a position where we can just work much smarter with the tools that we have available and really focus on the things that make a difference? Sorry, there was lots of stuff there.
No, yeah, but I agree. So the hustle bros saying not going to weddings and all of that is what makes them successful is purely anecdotal. There
Yeah.
is no science behind that. What we do have science behind is the impact of burnout on productivity and just how people show up at work. And I think that employers that don't embrace this change, like anyone who resists the change in the need of the workforce for flexibility, because flexibility and balance is really what's behind all of this. It's not, I mean, for some people, waking up at 4 a.m. and working might be the thing that makes them the most productive, but it's
Absolutely.
not the same for everyone. So it's
Yeah.
really about flexibility and productivity. And employers who resist this change are going to be left behind. They're going to have an incredibly hard time attracting and retaining talent. And then, yes, AI is here to help us do all of those tasks that we really didn't need to be doing in the first place. Um, like I said, this is more about flexibility, about balance, and about really focusing on doing the work that needs to be done. It's
Hmm.
not the sitting butts in seats and doing stuff. I always remember back to my project management days, one of the things that got me a lot of hate was when people would tell me like, I'm 50% done and I'm doing all of this. And I'm like, I want you to do one task because activity is not progress. And people would be like so mad that I would dismiss all the work that they've done. But it's like, we've known this, even as you can look at your work, the more you do, the less you actually get done. So
Hmm.
I really love, absolutely love where we're headed.
No, I think it's I think that's very true, and I just hope that we're sort of talking about hustle bros and entrepreneurs and all those kind of things, but as you say, it's employers that need to get this kind of message because I think there's maybe a little bit of a difference between the US and Europe in this, but even then, I remember working for companies back in the early sort of 2000s. That's a long time ago, and there was this kind of arms race about who could get in the earliest. It was ridiculous. It was just like, and the office building didn't open till 6:30, and the office building didn't open till 6:30, and then but there was a coffee shop next door that opened at 5. So after a while, it was like all the people in the coffee shop at 5. It was just like, why is everyone doing this? It makes no sense at all.
And then
But also people felt they had to do it because everyone else was doing it. There was a peer pressure about it as well.
yeah, and also who left the latest. It's like looking back, we were all sitting at our desk faking. No one was working past like 4:30, but we were all there and it was like a game of who's going to leave first, who's going to be seen as quote unquote lazy for leaving first, and we were all just sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing, and I think hopefully we're moving to an age of much kind of smarter working, but also that well-being and health thing is just so critical if you want that performance, the kind of performance that humans can give that AI currently can't.
Yeah. So the companies that will win are the companies that understand that employees are looking for flexibility and balance. And the ones who would truly win are the ones that are going to even provide resources for anti burnout and for mental health resources, which we've seen being done. But
Mm.
those are the companies that are really going to win um, at attracting and retaining, most importantly, talent.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I really hope this is a trend that massively continues, and long may it be the case. Rona, thank you very much for talking to me. Looking forward to talking to you again next week.
See you next week.
Okay, that is us at the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for everyone who made comments. Apologies for not reading some of them out, but some fantastic stuff there about drama degrees and soft skills and all that kind of stuff. Purple Acorn has stuff for you all week. You can tune into the HR Morning Show on Tuesday mornings, 7 a.m. West Coast, 10 a.m. East Coast. Hire Her, a Talent Collective podcast. Christopher from the Talent Collective was on a little bit earlier. That's on Wednesdays at 11 West Coast, 2 p.m. East Coast. My First Job with Mike Wood every Thursday, 2 p.m. again. And From the Desk with Jada Montemorano is on Fridays at the same time. And of course, the Alder Hour will be back next Monday. If you want to see more from Purple Acorn, head over to purpleacornnetwork.com. This will be available as a podcast on Spotify very soon. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts if you're not a Spotify user. And this is Matt Alder, clocking out.